May I now invite the chair of C40s, Mayor David Miller, who's also the Mayor of Toronto. Mr. Miller, please.
Mr. Chief Executive, Your Royal Highness, C40 Chair-elect Mayor Michael Bloomberg of New York City, Mayor Masondo of Johannesburg, Secretary Yao, my colleague mayors and vice mayors from the C40 and across the region, guests. Welcome to day one of the C40 Hong Kong workshop. As many of you know, this workshop is part of a 4-day event focused on climate dialogue and low-carbon cities for high-quality living. I've had the privilege of attending some of the thoughtful and insightful discussions that have taken place during the past 2 days, and I know that we can expect a very high-level but practical dialogue through our 2 C40 workshop days as well. During my tenure as C40 chair, it's been absolutely clear to me that cities are leading the way in the fight against climate change. Mayors and leaders of cities and city regions understand issues related to local concerns like infrastructure, financing, and community participation. In cities, we see the strong connection between combating and adapting to an increasingly unstable climate and opportunities for economic development, innovation, jobs, and community revitalization. The 2 themes for our workshop, energy-efficient buildings and electric vehicles, are very practical topics that cities committed to reducing greenhouse gas emissions will be familiar with. In my own city of Toronto, for example, our carbon emissions inventory indicates that nearly 65% of citywide greenhouse gas emissions are related to heating and cooling buildings. Most of the remaining emissions, about 30%, come from transportation. We know that collectively, we have already reduced millions of tons of carbon across C40 cities. But we need a variety of strategies, policies, programs, and projects with and between cities to truly succeed. The C40 has provided its network with an exceptional opportunity to share and learn in very applied and technical ways about how to successfully reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And I'll give you an example from Toronto. Over 10 years ago, we established the Better Building Partnership. It used a very small amount of funding, 8 million Canadian dollars, as a guarantee for property owners who wanted to borrow funds to do energy retrofits. The mechanism was a catalyst for widespread energy retrofits throughout the city, and importantly, helped to build confidence in financial institutions around lending for increased energy efficiency in buildings. And those financial institutions quickly developed their own financing mechanisms. I understand from Mayor Robert Doyle of Melbourne, a very active C40 city, that Melbourne learned from Toronto's experience and built their own financial mechanism to drive building retrofits, with a few modifications suitable for Australia. Recently, Toronto has learned from Melbourne's experience and is using it as a basis for building a powerful financing option for our tower renewal project, which will combine community economic development and building retrofits in over 1,000 high-rise residential towers. This type of learning and exchange of knowledge is effective, and I'm certain that in the sessions before us over the next 2 days, all of us will learn from each other, continue to build on best practices, and find even better ways through building energy efficiency and in the use of electric vehicles to create low-carbon economies, new jobs, and fight climate change. Throughout the C40, the learning, leadership, and action continues. Finally, I'd like to thank our generous hosts of the Hong Kong C40 workshop, including the Chief Executive and, of course, Secretary Yao and the team supporting them. Hong Kong has been extremely generous and has packed this week with incredible activities. And Edward, in particular, to you and your team, I want to thank you very much. Through you, Mr. Chief Executive, a very large thank you to Hong Kong. I'd also like to thank Ms. Christine Lowe and her team at Civic Exchange for their outstanding work in organizing this important international dialogue on low-carbon cities. I look forward to a very productive workshop. Let's begin. Thank you.
C40, of course, would like to capture this magical moment by having a photograph. So if I may invite the Chief Executive, as well as I think the mayor's team and the C40 members team to come up and capture this wonderful moment.